Alright, I'm working on a video about Fontcutter. Now, Fontcutter is kind of random. Like, it's not, it works. It just sometimes will not work. And really, it's the luck of the draw, with fonts and all that. But to show the idea, basically, you can just have a text object. And this isn't my public recording, but, in all the tests of this tool, I use swear words. So, we won't run from a fucking thing. And we just select our shape, mark it as a custom cutter, and we can just really just fuck a cube up, you guys. And I mean, not trying to be obscene here, but this is just how I tested a tool. I thought it was funny. Like the moment it was made, I was showing the coder the worst scenario of their tool, cutting the most vulgar words. I was like, this is what we can expect from users. They will more than likely opt for something really vulgar to say whenever they choose to test this tool out. I mean, you give a man the power of words, he's probably going to say fuck. And, I don't have any fucking problem with that. First Amendment and all that, So, I mean, even if I had all these comments of you guys telling me I suck and I'm retarded, First Amendment, gotta stand by your right to say whatever you want to say, even if I strongly disagree with it, or you might need to be shot for saying such things. I mean, it's like the byproduct, right? Anyways, not trying to get into a philosophical talk about rights, but you can see that I've really fucked this cube sideways, you guys. Just really royally fucked it. I don't know. It was funnier in the context at the time. But anyways, we'll select this and we will just smart apply everything, and nothing is selected. So we will smart apply everything, and now it'll go through and actually smart apply everything. But you got to watch out with your selections. I mean, I had a light selected there. So really, I'm fucking lucky that it actually let this go through. So we will just take all of our words here, and I guess the first thing we do is just visual geometry to mesh, just to sanity check. And I'm going to turn off gravity because it's just easier than playing with simulation settings at this point. And we will just spacebar, add rigid body, and we can just select everything and just break into loose parts, origin to geometry, and I could just tell you it's going to be a fucking disaster. What's funny is whenever you explode these things apart, it's not like you could ever tell what word it was anyways. So it just had me thinking that maybe, you could do simulations of debris using all these expletives, destroyed expletives, and people would never know, what the fuck it meant because, what does it say? So, that's kind of the goal of what to showcase, is that Fontcutter exists. However, sometimes there's words that just are unlucky. So powered by power save, we'll just save this as expletive 1. I learned a long time ago that you can get your point across much more efficiently with other words that aren't expletives. Expletives are kind of short talk for, I feel short talk for simple people to quickly make things extreme without using the proper English protocol to get there. I don't know, just me. So it's easier to tell someone that they are a exponential failure than it is to just tell them they fucked up, because you put the right words together and you hit them with some old timey insults, just crush a man. Anyways, video's not about that. We'll go back to the beginning before this thing just got completely fucked. Some about these files, I don't know, I just love shattering. All my close friends who have known me for years are like, dude, you're still shattering stuff. I'm like, I know. I want to make tools to help shatter stuff. I mean, I don't know. Something about breaking stuff. You can break everything in 3D. I don't want to break a thing in my office, but I'll break everything in 3D. Break a chair, break a computer, just break it. So anyways, I can't use the F word for the actual tutorial on this. And see, the thing is that, if I use certain words, like we changed a word to say proxy. Proxy is a risky word, let me tell you. We make this as a custom cutter, and you can see right here in the geometry how it solved it. And this isn't what I would call the most efficient solve. I mean, if your goal was to say bevel this text, and those dreams are out the window when you see a straight line going all the way across, just kind of shortchanging a curve. And we see that at multiple places, and for that reason, this wouldn't work out. So this X will work, the E will work, but this O, it'll extrude, but it's not what I would consider like in-gone approved geometry. So there are discussions that we're having on making it be more conformal, receiving messages over here on the side. I gotta stop reading messages while I'm recording. Well, I'm not actually recording. This is like a side video. Anyways, it let me cut proxy. Loof was also a major component in this. So let's cut his name, and we test our luck. We got 2 O's for a double dose of oof, which is sometimes what we're facing. So who else? Let's try Bongiorno. He's a fun name. 007 James Bond. So we cut his name in, and we see that it works out. And I'm sure you're probably watching this and you're like, what about proportions? What about keeping proportion? Jesus Christ, I know, you guys. I know. Look, if it's logical, like if it just makes sense, you rest assured that I am going after it as far as features go. I mean, people think I'm like crazy over features, but I mean, when I see a tool, I see its final version in my head. And, after that, I try to go for it. However, sometimes I tell people the whole plan and they're just like, dude, I don't want to do that. Like, well, can I get pieces of it? Can I get pieces of it from everyone and build this plan? But I mean, everything in Boxcutter that you experience has been like something that was like a super long freaking discussion, right? Like, you look at the DPI and you're like, I hate the placement of the DPI. I hate that system. I mean, that's the system that we finally came to agreement of. Discussing amongst each other for hours. And now we're talking about possibly changing it to be more accommodating towards the expansion of workflow that I propose. But, in order to come up with such a decision, we try to ponder these things because we don't want to jar the experience. I mean, also maintaining the space-time continuum with users being able to watch any version of Boxcutter video and just understanding what I'm doing is something that I try to experiment with and ensure is a possibility. Hops is a little different. Hops is is my vision for hard surface. So I mean, one day it will be complete and it will be this great thing, or at least in my head. Sorry, I had a brain aneurysm there. So we'll just grab ST3 and we'll just put him here. And we could see that ST3 didn't work out. And the thing is like if we use bool scroll and we bring back that bool in and we look at this, you can see that there's just some questionable things happening up in that T, you guys. Some things you just can't deal with. I mean, I have proposals for how to improve this, but here's how random Fontcutter can be. So while that one didn't work out, we type in ST3 and we put a dot at the end, right? And we make it a custom cutter again. And this will kind of reshuffle it and possibly give us different odds, but it's almost like TTT is giving us some problems. So, when these things happen, I'm personally diving into it to try to figure out why. So we have one T that's terrible. We have T the terrible, and then these twos, they make the cut. They're kind of cool T's, if you know what I mean. Really high T, really high testosterone on these T's over here. This one, low T. So, some letters can be a little bit of a gamble. And so for that reason, let's say we wanted to make this scientifically correct, meaning I don't want failure. I don't want to risk failure at all. And sometimes I'm just that way. Sometimes I want scenarios in which I do not want failure at all. Just zero failure behaviors. And so that's part of what makes these tools a bit complex. Like, I want to do a video talking about inset and Boxcutter versus how it's approached on the hard op side, because you know, while you would think, okay, I'll just get Fontcutter because, you know, it has everything. It's more like Fontcutter has a shorthand version of quote unquote everything. But in all honesty, Hard Ops is a lot more robust in the choices we allow you to experiment with. And I'm just selecting these two shapes and merging it last to create some darn continuity here. And, you know, if I were an Ingon connoisseur, like a person who sipped wine and looked at Ingons, I would say, well, this is a good Ingon, sir. This is a good Ingon. This one is not a good Ingon. You know, and I try to say this stuff in my videos. Like, I mean, people are like, you're an Ingon modeler. I'm like the best Ingon modeler. I mean, not bragging, but I'm just saying, if you're going to use Ingons, you know, think about your future. This Ingon is set up to be diced. These Ingons are just random, and my dream is that Blender gives us something a little bit better on the Ingon side. I mean, it sounds crazy because you're like, Ingons will never be accepted anywhere, but just believe me when I say I got Ingon standards, guy. So, you know, if I was lazy, if I was on a project, if I was doing this for work, I would press Control Shift Tab, jump to vertex, snap, duplicate this to the left, and hold Control and snap it here, and then delete the pieces that are underneath. But instead, let's talk about solving it again. So we could solve this a myriad of ways. I select this point and I dissolve it because that is going to prevent me from accidentally breaking these corners. If I just dissolve it like so, you can see that that just happened. So we save ourselves some keystrokes and annoyance in the future by just dissolving it on the point level. And so if we look at this area, we can see that this one barely needs to exist, but if we dissolve it like so, things will not work out. And if we dissolve it like so, we still have a double situation that's happening here. So we can actually just right click subdivide, and, you know, me being me, this is how I work, you know, behind the scenes, back alley access. This is how I work. I just take points and bevel them and then mirror them and then simplify them and just rebuild areas so fast in the blink of an eye that, you know, Ingons are just, they're like lesser quads to me. As weird as that sounds, like sometimes you have to manage so much geometry on a mesh. Sometimes you only have to manage freaking Ingons, and it's, and if you were counting keystrokes, which I am cursed with counting keystrokes now, that's a lot of keystrokes. And so I could actually manage things as an Ingon wall of form and then turn it into quad so very quick. And, you know, I want to show that and get to that point in these videos because, I mean, I've tried to emphasize it over time that, you know, geometry only needs to be as controlled as your curvature. But the flatter you are, the more you can kind of just let your hair down, you know. So we have this area and it's real tricky, real tricky. We're just going to start merging things. And we'll just merge it again. And this is what we have. And every time I move this point, I can see that we have a resistant edge here. And we want to just merge that, get that out of here. That piece is good, that piece is good. And we have successfully solved 3 T's. So, you know, if I wanted to just get a perfect solution for Fontcutter instead of dealing with the random lottery that is, you know, the Fontcutter, then that's where you would want to just solve it manually. And, you know, there's no need for me to solve so many T's, but I just want y'all to know that, you know, when there's a problem, I run straight at it and try to ponder why it happens and how to best avoid it. And so we look at our T's and we realize that we didn't apply to scale. And if scale is not applied, it's going to get problematic. This isn't a tutorial, this is the behind the scenes preparation for me to actually record a tutorial. And then I will try to find something else to do today, but I'll end up recording more content because I have no life. I'm gonna take a drink of water, you know, not drinking this. I always have these balls of water on my desk, but I never drink them because I don't know. I'm trying to become a gay frog, I guess. Hey, it's cool, rep it. Anyways, so we pretty much went over what I would want to talk about. However, I'm not going to talk about Ingon cleanup and all that in this video. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm saying things already that I'm going to have to remove speech from. So sometimes I do have to find myself having to self-censor in order to ensure that there's a quality product being put forth to you, the user. Don't want to brainwash people. So how are we going to showcase this? Do I want to cut the F word? Probably not. I want this video to be suitable for minors. And also, we're just talking about Blender. So, gotta keep it simple. What's a good word? You know, it's a good word is bird. Bird's the word. You know, when you make bird the word, you know, actually, if you look at the word bird and we look at the wireframe, oh, Jesus. I was about to say bird's a pretty good word, but, you know, all these curves just really make this thing look crazy on the wire. So, you know, we probably get a more simplified version whenever it does the mesh clean process. So, you know, let's see if bird is the word. You know, not trying to be that guy, but, you know, always curious. So we'll change this to be slice. Something about slicing using words is just a way to do it. And so bird. You know, if Larry Bird probably likes this video. Only person taller than me. Just bird. This video is sponsored by Bird Scooter. No, I'm just kidding. I haven't been outside in so long that I don't even know if the bird scooters are still everywhere. But I don't know. Every time I cut these words into something, I see like other words, like, I don't know, like sacrifice everything. Just kidding. But every time I do a cut with these words, I mean, I see the word bird, but I don't know. It's also like a kind of a futuristic looking ad sort of thing. I mean, I could get really random with this thing. In fact, you know, I just start playing with some commotion, have these things randomly scale up. People would look at it and just be like, bird. And then we'd set a bird on it, you know, just like a mic drop, right? Like mic drop a bird. Anyways, my goal is to get through this like humongous checklist of basic videos. And then I'm just going to start doing videos where I'm just going to be talking about just what I want to do again, instead of talking about fundamentals. But, you know, I get all the complaints of people saying they want more fundamentals, and I get what you're saying. And I get complaints from older users who are like, I wish I had small videos to just tell me what's new. It's like, all right, fine. I got you, bro. So let's do this. Got to record this video. I was actually recording a video about batching in Infinity Photo. I guess we can open up yesterday's project, which was for box cutter. I'm trying to do one hops, one box cutter, but the hops list is humongous, and the box cutter list is also humongous. The thing about box cutter's list is it was all done by proxy, so it's like a one-man list, kind of insane. But that is why he is tasked with the remaster of box cutter. And as far as that's concerned, the task of remastering box cutter is something that I've personally danced with to try to extend, because I want to create this super powerful feature-rich version of box cutter, and I almost don't want to see proxy finish the job immediately. I mean, him and I have come up with an agreeable payment structure to ensure that he remains interested. So we do want to build everything, but we want to enhance everything on the way in, so that, you know, this box cutter will be better than the 7.9 version, but be completely different and stronger. And every system will be thought out and a little more just interconnected. The previous way box cutter was, it was just a mess. So this is talking about 716 Fontcutter. Might use the word Fontcutter. I'm looking at it, but there's like 3 T's in Fontcutter. You know, am I that crazy a guy? Am I about to roll a video with the triple T's on them boys? The answer may shock you. So, you know, got to do my Zach Fair, where I hold up my sword. I'm like, always follow your dreams. You know, this is like the preparation that it takes to actually go into a recording. So, how do I want to do this? I don't even, you know, I'm about to just freestyle this because I didn't plan it out. All right. I don't know why I always receive so many messages whenever I'm trying to record some stuff. I should actually check up on Discord, definitely join Discord if you never have. All right, it looks like they managed to fix that normals issue. So if I wanted to actually put out an update, fixing this obscure normals panel, look, it's so stupid to even complain about this thing. Look, first of all, we deal with normals 10 ways to Sunday, man. Like normals, I wanted to make sure we dealt with normals and annihilated normals. If there's anything else that you need to go in the normal panel to do, besides set it to one of these values or toggle auto smooth. In fact, in a way, we did normals better because all I ever wanted from Blender was to just put the smoothing and the normal stuff together so that Blender would feel more hard surfacey. I mean, I still love Blender, but it's just weird that I have to go here to shade smooth and then I have to go here in order to talk about normals. And, as a person trying to teach vanilla fundamentals, some of these choices just are questionable. So it makes hops questionable. I mean, everyone on the team has different opinions because we're all different human beings, of course, but I am all about breaking the form of what we're dealing with. But popular alternative discussion on the team is to follow things exactly in Blender's shadow. And I mean, one way to explain that is, the help being at the bottom. To some, that is good enough. To some, that's cool. To me, the hell, man? I mean, sure, it's good to have all your hotkeys there, but baby, I'm working in full screen, dog. I ain't gonna be seeing those hotkeys. Where are my hotkeys at? So, the secondary answer to that question is, we have the help in the end panel, and that's cool. I love reading the end panel while I'm working. No, this goes against my full screen dream of having no UI. Just me in a box just talking. You and me just having a chat. Me and old boxy boy here. And I mean, I don't really need the hotkeys. I need you to know the hotkeys. And I mean, I display all my hotkeys in the corner. So, I mean, there's those people who are able to follow those hotkeys. But I also want an additional informational conveyance notification system that's not annoying and, not obscure. I mean, right now there's a notification system in Hops that's in testing, right? Like, if we just search for notification, insert notification here. That is my idea for it. I mean, my first idea for it. It does nothing right now, but in the future, we'll be notifying the hell out of you of some things that I feel that people should be aware of while they're working. I mean, one of my favorite things about this latest update that I haven't talked about yet is how if I just do a bunch of box cuts and then I run C sharpen by control clicking sharpen, it gives me all the information about how many cutters were applied, how many remain. Just that information isn't for me. I configured the defaults. This tool is perfectly optimized for me. That information is for you, homie. Anyways, sorry, I'm getting all crazy in the morning, ranting about this tool. I'm telling you, I should open a church. But, the more I get these fundamentals out the way, the more I realize that, damn, Hops is damn good, you guys. I mean, I hate to be bragging, but I mean, compared to when we first ported it over to 2.8, it was a little rough. And I mean, there's some ideas that are being refined right now. Like the whole ST3 system, we only just gave you the first taste. I definitely look forward to showing you what it's going to mean as far as what we aim to do with it, because I just want my own sandbox where I can customize it to what I feel would be the ultimate way to convey this tool to you. And I feel that if I have absolute control and the ability to fold these things around as needed, all the complaints that you have will belong to me. Hey, I don't like this choice. Okay, let's talk about that choice because I made it. And I'm really excited about it. Like, we look at Bevel, and Bevel has so many hotkeys, but the expansive mode needs not any hotkeys. The ideas behind it are completely different. And so I'm working on kind of thinking in this non-hotkey way of working, because that would be the final hurdle for making these tools completely accessible. Boxcutter was like the prototype. I mean, really, anyone who says Boxcutter is hard, I'm like, bro, click and drag, click and drag, click and drag. That's all I can say. You catch me getting carted off, right? Not just be screaming, click and drag, because it is all just click and drag. Just click and drag, listen to some psychedelic tunes, and just let the boxes take you. When you look up, you'll get somewhere. When you're ready, go to level 2, go to the part where you press T, and you start pressing T, and you're one of those T guys, and you start pressing B, right? You're one of those B guys. You're telling those B guys out on the streets, you're like, I want to use now. They're like, no, I don't know. You're one of those T guys. You're like, well, I mean, I press B, but I also will recall my shape and press a little T, though. I'll press a little T, but I'll press a little B. And I mean, that's what learning Fontcutter is all about. But for the most part, I even want to reduce the hotkey usage there. But, baby steps. We don't want to alienate pro users, and I still want to be able to expand on the pro usage for the people who just get it. But I also want to lower the bridge for those who just don't and just need a little bit more help, because I care. I care that everyone wins. It's my obsession with these tools. That's why it's so versatile. I want it to work for almost everyone. I mean, but I always am inundated with comments of, please add dimensions, please add this, please add that. It's like, sure. Just give it time. Just give it time. What do you want? You want a promise? You want a promise, dog? So I'll make a promise, but, it only keeps me from being able to play Animal Crossing. So that's why I just link people to the docs over and over. It'll be a thing. Just give it some time. Everybody needs breaks. And so even at this time that I'm doing all these videos, the coders are supposed to be just chilling. Aside from those who have assigned tasks, of course. But for the most part, everyone's supposed to be chilling, except for those with assigned tasks. And new. And those with assigned tasks. But other than that, everyone's supposed to be chilling and just relaxing, giving me time to actually talk about this tool. But everyone's always so eager from the last update of seeing what everyone else did on the team that they want to immediately do something. In fact, as I held this conversation, just destroyed this box, you guys. Just done. So, what if you want to become a Y guy? You're like, hey, what's a Y guy? A Y guy is where you press Y and you extract this crazy ass cut, and then you repeat it. You repeat it, and then you eat it. Well, maybe don't eat it, but the skewing's a little bit off, which brings me to proportional drawing. Yes, it was supposed to be a thing in this last release. It's on the cutting room floor. It's almost complete. Leave me alone. Please just know that I have this idea for something called the 2D arc, where basically these tools would get to a level that they would at least be competent for 2D usage, at least to me, and that involves being able to draw shapes completely repeatable with similar scale, with correct origins, with at any angle. It's all a work in progress. We always talk about these tools as they're concepting tools. They're concept tools. The ideas never existed before, so we're just kind of just making it up as we go. But I mean, you also see comments of people saying, well, you should be testing these ideas. I mean, Jesus Christ, I am always testing. My life is testing. I mean, I'm going to get out of this computer room and go in the living room where I have 2 other computers sitting there waiting for me to get on and box cut during a loading screen. And sometimes one loading screen too long, I'm back to Box City, baby. Back cutting boxes. Can't stop me. But anyways, this is 28 minutes, and this box is toast. You know what I love to do is material scroll one of these things. I mean, I don't even care what the material looks like. And then I'll press QOT because I'm part of the QD gang now. And then I'll add a bevel to it. And we'll go under add modifier, and I'll just hover over modifiers and press S to just quickly get solidify. It's just my favorite way to do things now. I've just become used to it. And with this, we can just go under blank material, and we will shift click to put it under glass. And call me a simple bitch, but you put something under glass and I'm there. You sold me. Like, this cube under glass, dude. Mwah. This thing's just a beauty. And that's really all there is to it. If you got an ugly cube, just put it under some glass. Just put some glass on that cube, and things will start shaping up. So let's actually get back to the topic at hand, which was Fontcutter here. So Fontcutter, how are we going to teach this? Boop, 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 boop. Calculating. Also, I'm listening to some of the worst music. Actually, I had to cut out a segment yesterday where I was ranting about a song I deleted. Sometimes I'll hear songs so terrible. I'll just sit there and ask myself while I was playing. I'm like, will I ever want to hear this song ever? 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 Will it ever play? And I'll be like, wow, I'm so glad this song played. And sometimes that answer is just hell no. So I delete out my library now. You know, it's deep philosophical questions, but I mean, I'm a bit of a music nut. Anyway, sorry to go on a side tangent. So let's do this. We got to talk about fonts. I want a good font. I got it. You know, one thing I'm curious in is will the font update without me pressing C? I'm pretty sure I asked for it. I'm insane in the membrane, and I'm pretty sure it was done in the most insane way. So if we say custom, this is our cutter now, right? So we switch over to custom, and we press C to make it the custom cutter because it won't work unless you're in custom. Had someone write me about that angrily. It's like, I don't know what to tell you, bro. Made sense to me. We select this shape, and we'll say, makes sense. And let's draw it now. And now we draw the word makes sense. And we say, sorry, bro. Because that's what I like to say on support issues. I mean, I'll say it out loud. I say it to myself. I'm like, sorry, bro. I mean, we're trying our best. We're trying our best. Custom makes sense. Sorry, bro. You know, people get the idea. Anyway, I could probably just cut out the tutorial from this recording itself, and that would just be my work for today. After then, I could go have a beer at 11:20 in the morning. Just kidding. I'm not going to drink in the morning. That's insane. But let's do this. Got to put on my tutorial voice. Hello, everyone. Master Xeon here with Box News. And in today's segment, Fontcutter. Part of Boxcutter? Fact or fiction? You decide. No, I'm kidding. All right. Let's do this. I'm beginning to have more fun with these videos. As I do these videos, I remember that this is my channel and that it's like the Jerry channel, right? So you're tuning into me. I strongly recommend not tuning into me, but people keep making that mistake. So we're here. In case you're ever wondering why I only show my hands and never my face, it's because it's funnier that way. I mean, also, you don't need to see my face. I'm not like spitting out hotkeys, but my hands are spitting out them hotkeys. And also, you know, does the camera make my hands look big? Do they? Because I'll take them off camera if that's the case. But anyways, let's get to this. All right, so we're going to say new to Boxcutter is the ability to insert fonts and use them as font cutters. So let's just shift A, add a text object, and we'll move it over to the left. Or, you know, let's talk about consolidating keystrokes. So, you know, we're looking at it from the front view. I don't know why my view starts on the side. It's kind of weird. But, you know, we'll look at it from here. And then maybe the first gesture I do is to place my cursor here and then shift A, place the text, and then from there begin maneuvering. I could also start a custom cutter to save some time, but I think that would be less informative to people watching the actual video. So I should let them see me go into custom cutter and then let them see me select the shape and make it the custom cutter with this itty bitty freaking text down here. This is something I argue about with the team, is they want the little text, and on top of that, they don't even want the little text. They don't want any text. I'm like, y'all are screwing me. I can't teach this tool if y'all don't convey any goddamn information. So, believe me, the notification system will be there for you. Next release. Anyways, continuing on. Let's see. So, we want to talk about text, but we want to place it over here. We want to press C, which will show it down here too small. I mean, I just irk over all these small things because I just need it to be very informative to you, the user. So when I get comments of people getting lost, I'm like, well, that dude's right. That's why I can't argue with them. And I tell the team that stuff all the time. I'm like, you see this guy talking shit? We can't argue with him because he's right. He's right. Or you move, you know, we had a situation last release where if you move the cursor up, it would just break view align cutting. It was just so terrible. I hated that bug. And people who found it were so angry. And I knew that they had every right to be angry, but also knew that updating it involved releasing 716, which just wasn't ready. In fact, I'm looking at the list of things on this release, and there's still so many things I wanted. Like, I really wanted to brag about having, you know, cuts that were well proportioned, and it's almost there. So you'll be seeing it very shortly. So please leave me alone about that. Measurements also on the table. Please leave me alone about that. You guys are killing me. If I worked in accordance with y'all's requests, I would never stop working. And for a one-time purchase, that is insane. We gotta talk about something else there, guys. Not a sock. Anyways, all right. So we gotta talk about this thing. We want to talk about Fontcutter, and I think I got it. I think I got it now after going through this whole preparation thing. Preparation Fontcutter. So let's do this. New to Boxcutter 716 is the ability to use any font as a cutter. When I say any font, of course it comes with some restrictions because during the geometry conversion process, things can get a little hairy. In fact, we will just right-click, shift-right-click, place our cursor here, switch to custom, and with custom, we will just shift-A, add a text object, and we'll just change this to say test, and we'll say test in lowercase letters. I'll zoom out so you can see that. And I just thought of that off the top of my head. And we'll look at this from the front, and we'll press SZ in order to scale it down on a Z to make it a little bit thinner. And we'll just apply that scale. So we have our text. We'll press C to make it the custom cutter. You can see that down here. We can select the object and change things over to slice. And by just drawing our text and just hitting spacebar, we can see what we get. And this test is an absolute failure. So I will definitely need to end this recording. And I'll need to pick a text that doesn't fail immediately. In fact, I'm curious in its failure. And this is why Fontcutter is just such a hard thing to talk about, is because these T's, man, these T's are hard. There's some hard T's out there, you guys. Just saying. And I have an idea for how I want to solve these things, but it will involve porting dice over to Boxcutter for some things. Also, just for the record, in case you didn't know, you can press Q and adjust your spacing of your text. In case you're one of those kerning people that just likes playing with kerning, you can just quickly get in there and just adjust the distance of your text. So I'm going to start this file over, and we're going to try this again. And I'm going to use the word T, damn it. You can't stop me from having a T. In fact, what's a good word that doesn't start with a T? Maybe I'm just not confident enough to use a T. No, you will never stop me. It will never stop me. I'm telling you. In fact, actually, if I use a T, though, people in the tutorial will use a T and cause this issue to come up. And really the answer is just do a little preparation on the mesh before you use it as a custom cutter. There's no way you can just jump a font over immediately, like so quickly. I mean, I almost just want to use the F word because fuck it. But that's inappropriate. And I apologize for all the expletives. I will fill up my swear jar. So let's do this. Take 2, action. So one of the new features added to Boxcutter 716 is the ability to use fonts as a cutter. So with our cube selected, I'm just going to press S and Z and just scale it down to be a nice little thin slab. And we'll press Control A and apply the scale just to make our lives easier. Looking at it from top view, I'm just going to shift right click, place my cursor over on the side, and we will just create a text object. And our text object will be called test. And we'll switch over to custom cutter and press C, and we'll just select our object. And before that, we of course want to maybe be in slice mode for this, and maybe also destructive. So we want to be in slice and destructive, in addition to having our custom cutter set as our draw type, and pressing C to make this the custom cutter. So we will just draw T and press spacebar, and we see that the T just really delete this recording. So the T is just going to work me. You know, maybe I should have a disclaimer saying, hey, the T's gonna get you, man. The T's a son of a bitch. Damn you, T. You know, where's iced tea at? Oh my God, the T is just such a terrible word. I should just change it to a custom font and then try this. All right. In fact, thinking about this, I'm gonna have to say something like, Fontcutter is one of our more experimental new features of Boxcutter, new to 716. That's probably will make more sense to say. Uh, Fontcutter is one of our experimental newer features added to 716. Wait, let's check that. Let's check the English on that. Fontcutter, new to 716, is an experimental feature allowing you to use fonts as cutters. Now that rolls off the tongue like Ramundo. Anyway, sorry. Let's do this. New to 716 is Fontcutter, which is an experimental new way to approach custom cutter and allow you to use... Jesus, that sounded terrible. All right, let's think about this. I don't normally have to rehearse in between videos. Let's see. Fontcutter. So the first word of this video is the word Fontcutter. I should do that. I almost like the sound of that. So let's do that. All right, I can do this. I can do this. No, I'm kidding. I can't do this. No, I'm kidding. I must do this. You don't record 42 minutes to record the 5-minute video in the last 8 minutes and call it a day. So let's do this. Fontcutter is new to 716 and allows you to use fonts as cutters. However, this feature is experimental due to it using Clean Mesh as the system for solving it, which can get us some rather experimental results. In fact, I've inserted a text object and we will just type in Boxcutter. And T's, being especially problematic, can be quite tricky. So I suppose we will just press D to bring up our pie menu, switch over to custom, press C, and we will just draw the word Boxcutter. And by pressing X, we can switch over to slice. And we see that it actually was able to go through. Sometimes with certain words and certain configurations, you can have issues with the cutter based on the way that it will solve. So an easy way to kind of look at these things is we will just use mod scroll to scroll backwards on the Boolean. And if we press Alt V and look at the wireframe, we can see actually, let's just go in edit mode. We can see that T is always going to be a little bit problematic. So while this cut was able to survive this round, this is something that was failing on subsequent preview tests. So I do recommend approaching this tool with caution. Of course, there are some alternative ways you can get better results out of something like this. In fact, let's say that I wanted to get a perfect font cutter. Actually, let's flow this video better. The flow of this video isn't completely adequate. All right, so I want to start off showing people Fontcutter, and then I want to show people a workflow for getting possibly cleaner fonts. So let's do this. New to Boxcutter 716 is the experimental Fontcutter. Fontcutter is a work in progress, so sometimes with its ability to automatically solve, it can get a little bit wayward. So we'll just jump into our 3D view and Shift A, add a text object, and we'll press GX and move it over to the left. And we'll just type in Fontcutter. Old habits die hard. I can't stop testing the letter T. So we will select our font and we will switch to custom, and we'll press C in order to switch this to be the custom shape, replacing the logo. And we'll also make this a slice, and we will just draw some box cutter logos. For some reason, I always press X. Old habits die hard. In fact, there's not even a need for me to press any hotkeys because I've pre-configured box cutter already by setting it to slice and custom to draw exactly what I want. And then every time I'm drawing it, I'm pressing spacebar to apply the operation. You can see that as I use it over and over, due to the complexity of the word and the mesh itself, it can get a little bit heavy. But Fontcutter is just one of those things that we added just kind of to just complete this version. However, curve support is the next thing on the list, but we wanted to experiment with attempting to have a cutter that is able to be automatically solved prior to its application, which is what brought this tool to be. So while we're able to cut at this time, there is a chance that you could run into very strange issues when using fonts as your cutters. So we were able to make all of these cuts work. However, I will just jump through a mod scroll to just grab a cutter. And if we look at this in edit mode, we can see that the solve for this possibly wasn't the best. And this is because we let it solve as Blender would just generally solve, where the edges are just connected to the nearest logical point that it could find on the computer. So sometimes it is better to solve these things, manually as a human being, because you can make better judgment calls. And to show that in action, I will shift right click, place my cursor, and we will press S and scale down a plane. And we'll just duplicate our font and move it down onto Y, tab into edit mode, and ensure that we encompass our shape. And I will take this moment to use the object menu to convert this to a curve. And so now we have a curve of the box cutter logo. And let's get in here and just put a few loop cuts in. In fact, I actually thought of this right before jumping to this segment on the previous take, that, just adding some loop cuts would actually be smarter than a dice on this. So we may have to come up with a per letter system, but sometimes I like to come up with these ideas on the fly. So we will just select first we'll select the curve, then we'll select the plane. And with spacebar, we'll just use knife project, one of my favorites. And we don't even need to look around and make sure it cut through. We can just press P and separate the selection and just delete the plane, delete the cutter. And if we look at this, this is actually much cleaner than what we ever would have got just allowing it to solve. And this is actually what I intend for Fontcutter to be in the future. However, everything is always a baby step, allowing for room in the future with improvement. So if we just bring another cube down here and we scale it, we can just move this cube here, select our special font, press C, and we of course run into an issue with scaling. When it comes to custom cutter, you want to always apply your scale, or else custom cutter will have issues with something to do with its matrix math. But now we're cutting in something just so much cleaner than what we were actually getting before. I may use n-gons, but I have standards as far as what is a quality n-gon. You can't just come at me with any old n-gon and expect me to accept it. With n-gons, there has to be a certain flow to it to ensure that the conversion process down the road is also something very easy, and also it's capable of receiving certain modifiers without any issue. Anytime that you're using n-gons and you're unable to put a bevel, you might want to check the flow of the geometry, because that's one of the main things that will stand in the way of you being able to get the result that you want when it comes to beveling and using n-gons. N-gons are especially good when it comes to planar forms, but can definitely get troublesome whenever they begin curving. So this isn't actually what the result of the mesh looks like. That's actually the font itself. But if we were to take this mesh and just Control A, convert it to mesh, and use hard ops for a moment to use clean mesh, this is actually what we would have got for our cutter. So comparing this top result, which is actually what we get when we just do a little bit of work cleaning up the font versus what we actually get just allowing the solver to solve. I mean, these T's will forever be questionable. And the fact that it allowed these booleans to go through is just a miracle unto itself. And some things a weld modifier just can't solve. In fact, for this case, more than likely points would have had to have been created and added in order to just really get that area flowing again. And for me, I find it easier to just send lines straight down the middle. But that, in a nutshell, is Fontcutter. All right, I'm gonna have to roll with that take. I might have to do a later deep dive on Fontcutter. I mean, there's like a 40-minute video talking about Fontcutter, and we will set the audio to be mono, so that way we don't have issues playing in a single ear. Van Gogh likes my videos, by the way, so we'll just call this Fontcutter. And we'll just let this render and process, and that's really it. If I were to entertain you people, first I would use power save, and we'll just call this BC demo Fontcutter. I'm always saving these files with power save to give to my patrons. I actually have found that it's like the greatest workflow ever of just a guy who's always having to give files away to his patrons. I just love saving files and just sending them to my patrons. So just, use power save. So to wrap this video up, we will just press B to do a box select, and we'll just grab all this stuff and delete it because we already saved it. And we'll call this Fontcutter 1 and save that. Actually, damn it, I overwrote it. I did not mean to do that. Doesn't matter. You live and you learn. That's why I was telling Bongiorno that we should have power save take over the main save button because of such problems. So we'll just take this, and I'm actually going to do something different. I was going to make it explode, which is like my de facto idea to go to, but instead we're just going to visual geometry to mesh this thing. Sometimes it's just easier to just let this thing just do its magic and show you a slight hourglass. And now that that operation completed, we can just select everything, tab into edit mode, and press P, separate by loose parts, and then we could just select everything and just do origin to geometry, giving everything its own little origin. In fact, we also want to Alt P and just clear any parenting, and just Control A, visual geometry to mesh, and my recording finished. So I did not make my time trial of making something entertaining to wrap this video up on. So there's this add-on called Commotion that I am just in love with, you guys. I'm just saying, I cannot stop loving Commotion. And is that a cutter in my scene? Look, I have no place. In fact, what was I about to do? I'll just select a mesh, and we will just do evict, which is Control to evict. Evict will just remove things out of the collection that shouldn't be there, like a cutter. I just love evict. So now that we've evicted those people, sorry for being so literal there, we'll just move this to a collection called AFF, and we'll move this to a collection called EFF. And I don't know, I just keep calling AFF my animated collection, and effectors my EFF, which means that this empties in a single collection is going to be modifying this, and all these objects will be modified by this collection. So we'll just play with our scale. I like setting the scale to 0. And if we just let this play, we can see what we're getting here, which is really nothing pretty. Maybe rotation as well, put a 90 in there, and we'll hit it with the free bake. Maybe we'll lower the fall off, mess with the fade. And we don't want it actually to be rotated 90. We want it to be rotated 90 when we come out. And so while the timeline's playing, I'm able to just move this object into place, just scale it, and just bring this thing to life, which is just one of my favorite ways of just, you know, kind of getting in here and just playing with Fontcutter. So, you know, if you're watching this after video, now you see why the after video is probably where it's at. And, you know, we might even want to affect the fall off a little bit just to get something a little graceful. And, you know, I bet if we take this thing into rendered mode, and we'll just select one shape and just give it a blank material, and then we'll select everything and we will just give it that same material. And because there's so many pieces involved, I already know there's going to be a wait process involved. I've actually been contemplating if there's a way we can flag long wait times and notify users that, hey bro, you're about to wait. How would you like to not wait by canceling this operation? You know, I think that would be super cool. So if we select our empty and then we go into render only mode, we can kind of see this just, that actually looks trippier than I thought. Something about just Fontcutter. I don't know. I just love Fontcutter. I mean, in fact, that's our arguments on the team, is we all love Fontcutter so much. Nobody loves hops like I love hops. Maybe Bongiorno. He also, I think, loves hops sometimes. But hops is my baby. Love hops so much. But also Fontcutter. Also, what is this little sliver on the side? Whatever it is, it can go. You don't deserve to be a part of this world. Westworld reference. You're not needed in this new world. And we can still just move it around while it's playing to just really just get really interesting with this thing. But I guess with that, I can wrap up this video. In fact, I like the idea of like a sci-fi wall just kind of coming to life, being like displaying information and just break away. In fact, setting something like that up could be like super easy if I wanted to do it. In fact, let's say I wanted to do it. So we'll scale this up to be maximum and then pause it. And this is going to be sticky, but I'm going to select this top face and we're just going to give it a blank material, and it's its own material, different than those other materials. But we'll select everything and tap into edit mode, and we'll just select one face and choose normal. And so basically we have all the faces that are, you know, sticking straight up, and we will just you know, assign a material to that. And ideally that should have done it, and it didn't. So undo, let's go back. For some reason it did not assign. Oh, you know, I should probably link the materials. And then from there, I'm able to assign that top face. So sometimes I use multi-object mode lazily without thinking about what it actually offers. But now I can, you know, select everything. Let's see, select everything. Tap into object mode, G, normal. So if we're looking at this from the top, we can just, you know, press U and project from view is the one I'm looking for. And because I'm so obsessed with reducing keystrokes, instead of going in and playing with the settings for, instead of playing with the render settings, I'm just going to use images as plain and import, you know, one of my hops quickies for, you know, branding. We'll use, let's see, we'll use some Fontcutter propaganda. Actually, let's do Hops TV, actually. There is no separation to me of these tools. And that one's my previous Hops TV one. This one's actually the clean version. So we'll use this one, animated image sequence, and we'll import image as plain, which brings us with one image. I'm always nervous that I'm going to receive many, many images. And so now with this, I can actually, let's just press H to hide that, and we'll just select these. And which one is green? The top face. So the top face is green. We will replace that with 001 and press Control L and link to materials again, which is just one of the fastest ways to do things in Blender. Some things are just incredibly fast, and sometimes that's what keeps me thinking about those decisions. So if we look at what we have it projecting our Hops TV logo. However, it could be better. So we'll turn off viewport display and just look at this from the top. We're just treating this like it was a singular plane. Ta-da. So there we are, Hops TV, all set up. So, I mean, even after you shatter things, these are some things I always wanted to know how to do in Blender. So I'm just glad to just know them and be able to do them like it's nothing. Because, you know, there used to be a time when certain things were hard to do in Blender. I remember watching a CG Cookie tutorial about doing some leaves in the wind. It was like the hardest tutorial ever. I mean, it's not for their lack of trying. It was just a difficult maneuver, and I still look at the files sometimes from back in the day for it, because, you know, nobody uses particle instances anymore. It's such a classic. So it's like box, and then we got the Hops TV. Let's see. So it'll be Hops TV, and then it'll just break away into little boxes just in the craziest way. So let's actually play with the material. I didn't even want to go into the shading editor, but you know, sometimes you wake up and you're in a shading editor. So we will just put a emission down, and then we will put a, let's see, I think that's it. Oh yeah, mix shader. Where is it? Sorry, I'm having lapses here. I'm not supposed to be doing videos this long. But this will be a secret video, so it doesn't matter. And if we press Alt-VV, we can look through different HDRs, and I'll just press Q in order to you know, put some emission on it, and put some bloom on it. And if we jump back to our layout, this is what we're looking at now. So I can just somehow select my empty again, which is the last item in the stack. And this is our result so far. Hops TV. It's box cutter time. So, you know, this probably would have been a way cooler tutorial for a box cutter than the one that I actually did for it. So I'm kind of glad I am starting this whole thing of doing pre-recordings before the post-recordings. I was originally going to do these as Patreon exclusives, but you know, I don't think that a lot of people are actually watching all these videos, so might as well keep it as a super fan thing. But something about looking at this thing just hypnotizes me, guys, I'm telling you. And I can still go in and you know, select a piece and locate its node for the emission and just completely change the color. Like, what if you want something cool in blue or pink, you know? Bam. Can't stop me. Can't stop me. Back at the pink, you guys. Anyways, done being hypnotized. I'm out of here, you guys.